Now, people might say that 7th century Islam, how does it stand up to the 21st century, because we're in a different century?
Abdullah has made many thought-provoking videos on YouTube about Islam, and I have to admit that he's the only Muslim that I actually subscribe to. The reason is because his arguments kind of provide me with an intellectual challenge that I need in order to think about Islam in new and different ways. And there are very few Muslims I can say this about. Their arguments tend to be weak, dichotomous, or they actively choose to ignore the rebuttals that other people make. This is not the case with this gentleman. In the following argument, Abdullah presents his case that 7th century Islam is capable of answering the problems of modern people. He argues that the only thing that's changed in time is technology.
You see, systems of human organization remain the same, but it is only technology that changes.
Instead of camels and ships, Muslims today have cars, airplanes, tanks, trains, email, and all kinds of modern technologies. He explains that Muslims enjoy modern marvels that make their world better, but reminds us that technology does not change how Muslims organize themselves in Islam.
Well, you see, this is like saying that democracy, it cannot deal with modern day problems because it was made 2,500 years ago by the Greeks, and therefore it is an ancient system, ironically predating Islam and Christianity. Now, does this mean now that to implement democracy we all have to wear togas and go and walk around with a wreath round our head like the Greeks did? No.
Abdullah attempts to prove that technology is the only difference between then and today, and he attempts to prove that the Islamic governance is still beneficial to modern people, and illustrates his point by juxtaposing two different concepts, Islam and democracy. Now, it's interesting that he chose two systems which are diametrically opposed to each other. In the analogy, he holds that democracy was invented by the ancient Greeks long before Christianity, and he argues that one does not need to wear a toga in order to practice democracy. He also argues that it would be illogical for a person to say democracy does not work simply because it was invented a long time ago. And so far, I have to agree with absolutely everything he says. So up to this point, there's no disagreement. His argument would make more sense, however, if he understood one little thing. If he understood that there is a vast difference between ancient Greek democracy and modern democracy. In the ancient system, all male Athenian citizens were eligible to speak and vote. No political rights or citizenship were even granted to women, slaves, or immigrants. So if somebody were to point out that ancient Greek democracy has no place in the modern world because immigrants, women, and slaves are entitled to human rights, that person would have a valid argument. Ancient Greek democracy is primitive and barbaric with respect to human rights. What makes his argument illogical is that he talks about ancient Greek democracy as though it is something that Westerners actually practice today. Now, I've seen Muslim scholars in the past use words without understanding what they mean. For example, they use scientific theory, and they confuse that with theory. They think philosophy of relativism and Einstein's theory of relativity are somehow the same thing when they have nothing to do with each other. There are many, 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 many cases where Muslims have either intentionally or unintentionally played with words for the purpose of misleading Muslim people. Therefore, anytime you really debate with a Muslim, it's important to understand what exactly you're talking about and to understand, the definitions of words. Now, I don't know whether or not Abdullah is actively ignoring the fact that ancient Greek democracy did not give any rights to women, to slaves, or to foreigners. Maybe he doesn't know. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. But right now, what I'm going to do is to illustrate exactly why his analogy does not really make any sense. If you take a careful look at the image, you will see how democracy is practiced around the world. Each country is shaded according to the idea that all human beings have equal rights, regardless of their age, gender, national origin, religion, creed, marital status, or sexual orientation. Black and blue countries are the worst offenders, while lighter countries are the best. Sweden, for example, is the country that is most likely to respect all human rights. Now imagine a country on this map practicing ancient Greek democracy. What color do you think it would be? The nation would allow slavery, would not grant rights to any immigrants or women. Therefore, the ancient Greek democratic nations would be dark blue or black, just like all the Islamic countries are. This map that you're looking at is called the Freedom Map. The map shades all countries into 3 colors. The creators of this map hold that a person cannot be free unless they are economically free. This means that all people, including women, have access to their own money and can travel freely. Teal nations are free, yellow are partially free, purple countries are not free at all. Ancient Greek democracy would have been purple. And if you take a look at some of the Islamic nations that are very, very dark, that's because women cannot leave without their husband's permission. Now, the third image you're looking at is the polity conceptual scheme. It examines the concomitant qualities of like democratic and autocratic authority in the governing institutions. Some of the things it examines is political competition. For example, the president of Syria, Assad, was president for 30 years. Okay? Then after he died, his son became president. Now the Syrians might like to call themselves a socialist nation or try to elevate themselves, compare themselves with Europe in some way. But the fact is, there is no competition for head of state. And countries that have dictators, kings, presidents for life, the color is burgundy or black. The best countries are the ones that have new presidents, new heads of state, new people in government, and fair elections. These countries are like light pink in color. If the ancient Greek democracy was implemented in any nation on earth, what color do you think it would be? It would be dark red or burgundy because women, slaves, and immigrants could not participate in the ancient Greek democratic government.
You see, systems of human organization remain the same, but it is only technology that changes.